Welcome to the Fitness Simplified podcast. I'm Brooke Davis, women's functional nutritionist and fitness specialist with Elysian Women's Wellness, and I'm here to simplify your fitness. Today, we're diving into a topic that every woman needs to hear for so many reasons, but especially as we age, and that is the importance of building muscle. For so many women, including myself, honestly, for so many years, my goal was just for my body to be skinny as possible. Eventually, I wanted to build muscle, but even then, it was more about aesthetics, which is what I think most women can relate to, like how you look in the mirror, right? How your clothes are fitting. But here's the reality. Muscle is about so much more than that. It's about energy, resilience, and even hormone balance and production. As we age, our bodies go through absolutely insane changes. We go through these huge fluctuations in estrogen, progesterone, right? The decline in those two things. And then, of course, cortisol that can impact literally everything from our metabolism to our mood, our energy levels. And what most women don't realize is that building and maintaining muscle actually plays a huge role in how well your body manages these changes. Muscle doesn't just make you strong. It supports so many aspects of our health and ultimately longevity, right? That is quality of life. And it helps regulate blood sugar. It increases your metabolism. It even impacts the way and how difficult perimenopause and menopause can be. So today we're going to break it all down, why building muscle is essential for your hormones, your long-term health, the science behind how muscle actually supports your metabolism, and how you can start incorporating strength, muscle building strategies into your life. Even if you're just getting started or you feel like you're behind, it's never too late to start. So this episode is going to empower you with the knowledge and some of the tools in order to take control of your health in a way that feels sustainable and is effective. So let's start with something that might actually surprise you. Muscle, like I said before, is not just about strength or even aesthetics. It's actually a hormonal organ in and of itself. How cool is that? Our bodies are so fascinating. So muscle tissue is what we call metabolically active. So that means that it's constantly using energy or burning calories just to maintain itself, right? Even when you're sleeping. So when you build muscle, the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn, even at rest. So when you contract your muscle, it actually secretes these signaling molecules called myokines, which are little messengers, and they send communication. They communicate throughout your entire body and have an impact on hormone production. They can reduce inflammation and ultimately improve your overall health. So essentially, your muscle is part of a control center that actually helps to regulate a bunch of other systems in your body. Specific hormones that are impacted by your muscle and why this connection matters so much for women as we get older is what we're going to talk about next. First off is insulin. One of the most powerful effects of muscle is part of the role that it plays in regulating insulin sensitivity and blood sugar levels. So when you eat carbs, insulin is essentially the vehicle that moves glucose from the bloodstream into one of two places for storage or for use, and that is the liver or the muscle. So the more muscle you have, the better your body is going to be at managing blood sugar, the more sensitive your insulin can react, the more places it's going to have to go and be utilized, which means that it is lowering your blood sugar levels and reducing your risk of developing insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes, which is a really common issue, especially during perimenopause and menopause. Because the hormonal shifts that we go through, like the decrease in estrogen and progesterone, actually make our bodies very, very prone to struggling with this insulin resistance. Super common for blood sugar, like A1C and even, fasting glucose, that kind of stuff, to be elevated in perimenopause, despite sometimes no change in your nutrition, activity levels, etc. So this can go a long way in managing and preventing that. Long story short, building muscle makes your body better at handling carbohydrates, which in turn stabilizes your energy throughout the day. So next up is a trending favorite, and that is cortisol. So of course, chronic stress can lead to elevated cortisol levels, which can also break down your muscle tissue over time, contributing to fat gain, especially around the belly. Obviously, if you are in perimenopause, have experienced it, know much about it, one of the most common complaints of it is weight gain, and it is most often in the belly. Even women who have never had a problem with belly fat, maybe they normally gain it in their hips and thighs. Once they reach perimenopause, they start to gain it in their belly, and that has to do with the sometimes decline of estrogen, the decline of testosterone, and those can all be impacted by that. Strength training, building muscle can help reduce the impacts of that by not only preserving muscle, but also lowering cortisol levels in the long run when it's done right. It is essentially you're giving your body a little buffer and giving it a barrier against the harmful effects of chronic stress. So, of course, we'd be remiss to not talk about estrogen. As you know, estrogen levels fluctuate and ultimately decline during perimenopause and menopause, which usually leads to that increased fat storage, along with a much more difficult time of building muscle and the decline, actually, the decrease of muscle, the breakdown of muscle, if you're not doing things to actively maintain it. That being said, the more muscle you have coming into this hormonal transition, along with, of course, taking the steps to continue to build and maintain, you actually are supporting your fat loss. You're helping to stabilize estrogen levels. This helps reduce the amount of muscle that you lose. And of course, strength training is going to help you improve your body composition. This also, in turn, impacts how estrogen is processed and utilize it. So that makes it easier to actually manage your symptoms like hot flashes, mood swings, and weight gain. So another big one is testosterone. So this is, of course, the dominant male sex hormone, but it's super important for women still, especially when it comes to maintaining your muscle and bone health. So unfortunately, it is normal. Testosterone levels do naturally decline with age. So this is something that we want to support. Luckily, having muscle, strength training, they both stimulate testosterone production, which is going to help you preserve the muscle you have. Also, it gives you more energy, vitality, motivation. Some of that comes from testosterone. And then a less talked about one is growth hormone. So building, engaging your muscle through that resistance training, strength training, it also triggers the release of growth hormone. This plays part in your recovery, your metabolism, and it supports maintenance of your lean body mass, so of your muscle mass. So this is kind of your body's like repair and rejuvenation signal. It helps you feel strong, energized after you have worked your muscles. So when we say that muscle is essential for hormone health, it's not just about looking good. It's about giving your body the tools that it needs to actually function optimally as you age. And so by building and maintaining your muscle, you are actively supporting your hormones. You are improving your metabolism, and ultimately you're setting yourself up for long-term health and resilience. I just recently had a client, I have to share this, that was like, I don't necessarily, my goal isn't to lift super heavy. I just want to lose fat and be toned. And I was like, so here's the deal though. You don't have to lift super heavy. The heavier you can lift, yes, but it's not necessarily about the weight that you use. You want to be pushing yourself. You have to be pushing yourself in some way in order to get that stimulus. And so whether the weight is heavy, and heavy, of course, super heavy is very relative, first of all. But second of all, right, whether the weight is heavy or not, how you utilize it and how you implement your strength and resistance training is what's actually going to make the difference. So you can use pauses, holds, isometrics, things like that in order to increase the time under tension and stimulate muscle growth, or you can use heavy weights. I think there is studies to support the weight on, the amount of weight that you're lifting simply based on effort, but we don't necessarily have a ton of studies looking at again, things like holds, just purely time under tension when it comes to things like bone density and, muscle mass as we age. So that is something that does need more research on it. However, if you are not lifting to your capacity, and I've talked about this, I'm going to dive more into this, then you need to look at other ways to increase your RPE, right? Increase that time under tension and actually get to a point where you are challenging yourself with your lifts. So it's not about the weight that's being moved. It's about what your training is actually doing for you. So keep that in mind. And more muscle, right? More lifting heavier equals more muscle, which equals toning, of course. And toning is losing fat and building muscle and losing fat in order to make it visible. Long story short, like I said, it's not about, don't go into it thinking, oh, I want to move this heavy weight. It's, I want to build muscle because one, again, not even aesthetics, but even lifting heavy equals building muscle, and building muscle equals supporting your goals aesthetically as well as hormonally. So shift your mindset to, I'm not doing this just to move weight. That's not the point. I'm doing this to build muscle to support my body as I age and continue living a vibrant quality of life. Now, let's talk about something that really doesn't get enough attention, and that is what actually happens to our muscle as we age, why this matters for health, hormones, and of course, overall quality of life. So starting around the age of 30, our bodies automatically start to decline in muscle mass. This is called sarcopenia, and while it's completely natural, it's actually disastrous for our hormone health. And the worst part is that it accelerates significantly after the age of 40. So without intentional effort to build or maintain muscle, we are losing 3 to 5% of our muscle mass per decade. That means by the time that women reach their 50s, 60s, 70s, that amount of loss has a huge impact. And so what does this mean for the rest of your body? It is a big part of what at FDN, or Functional Diagnostic Nutrition, that is my training, we call metabolic chaos. And that is the downward spiral that can significantly impact your health over the long run. So first and most obvious, it affects your strength, your mobility, right? Thinking about just the day-to-day activities like carrying groceries, climbing the stairs, playing with your kids or grandkids, right? That all becomes so much harder when you are losing muscle. Second, of course, it impacts your metabolic rate. So like I said before, muscle is metabolically active, so it's burning calories even when you're not doing anything. So as your muscle mass decreases, your metabolism does slow down, making it easier to gain fat and harder to lose weight. Simply based on metabolic rate, they have found that that really doesn't start to impact anything significantly until about age 60. But then if it hasn't been addressed, if you haven't been doing things to maintain and continue that muscle building process, then you are going to see an impact. And then loss of muscle mass and increased fat gain. Again, gaining fat, especially around the belly, causes inflammation. That is what we call visceral fat. And so it kind of situates itself around your organs. This causes inflammation, and that can just further disrupt your hormones, creating this vicious cycle, right? That metabolic chaos of weight gain, imbalance, right? Once you gain fat, you are looking at increased hormonal imbalances. When fat increases, muscle decreases, hormones are thrown off. Okay, this leaves you tired, less motivated, which leads you to doing less and gaining and storing more fat. And then, of course, you have hormonal imbalances. Your energy, your mood is disrupted. Your higher cortisol levels, lower testosterone, is low energy, irritability, mood swings, right? Combine this with the physical stress of losing strength, muscle decreasing, and it's easy to see how this muscle loss really affects not just your body, but your mind, your emotions, and ultimately your long-term health, right? If you don't do anything to combat this cycle, it increases your risk for chronic diseases like type 2 diabetes, osteoporosis, cardiovascular disease, all of which are completely preventable with lifestyle, exercise, and nutrition changes. it ultimately is going to lead you to being frail and, ending up in a wheelchair, having other people take care of you because you can't, right? And that is something that a lot of us don't really think about until it's too late. The good news is that this downward spiral is not inevitable. Again, those are all very largely preventable. And by really understanding what's actually happening in your body, by taking this proactive steps to maintain and rebuild your muscle, you can actually reverse these trends, regain control over your metabolism, improve your energy, improve your hormonal health. Of course, there are some additional benefits to maintaining muscle as we age. And I mentioned both earlier, but bone health and mental health, right? Both of which do also decline during midlife. So in addition to that muscle loss, as women age because of estrogen, our bone health is really closely tied to hormones like estrogen and testosterone. And so strength training can help you offset that natural decline. That is reducing your risk of osteoporosis and fractures. Resistance training, it does actually put stress on your bones. So does plyometric training. That is a big part of maintaining bone health. Even things like rebounding, so even on the trampoline, can be really impactful. Nothing to do with the calorie burn, but simply that impact on the bones. And so, those signals basically tell them they need to be stronger. And so when you are building muscle, you are also building the foundation for lifelong mobility and independence, which personally is extremely important to me. Right? When you think about aging, how do you imagine yourself enjoying your retirement years? Do you want to be able to take care of yourself, need people to take care of you, right? Your muscle may actually be the determining factor between those two options. And finally, but certainly not least important, let's talk about mental health, right? Strength training, maintaining muscle can have amazing benefits for your mental health, just exercise in general. And this is honestly way overlooked. When you exercise, your body releases endorphins. These are your natural mood boosters, which means that when you're done with your workout, you feel better than when you started. So sometimes it can be hard to get going, but if you do it right, you should feel great afterwards. Beyond that, though, studies have actually shown that building muscle, right, the actual goal of building muscle, can reduce symptoms of anxiety and depression that can come with the hormonal changes during perimenopause and menopause. And another thing that I think a lot of people don't think about until they're doing it, and these are things that I love to hear from clients, is that a sense of accomplishment from getting stronger, being more capable in your body, right? That's part of the self-confidence, and as well as, the education behind learning how to take care of your body and seeing that progress and feeling those changes. Let's face it, when you feel strong physically, it is much easier to manage the rest of your life, whether it's hormonal, mental, right? Otherwise, outside stress. The benefits of maintaining and building muscle are undeniable, from regulating your hormones, boosting your metabolism, strengthening your bones, improving your mood. Muscle truly is the cornerstone of health as you age. So now you know why it's so important. Let's talk about how you can actually get some of these benefits. So whether you have never exercised in your life, maybe you've actually been in the gym, there are some key things you want to make sure you are implementing. And the first thing to remember is that consistency is more important than intensity. It is really easy to feel overwhelmed, but you don't have to do everything perfectly to see results. Start where you are. If you've never done strength training before, something as simple as bodyweight exercises or light resistance bands can be incredibly effective. But the key is to show up consistently. Small steps, build momentum over time. That is going to lead to those big changes. I would like to point you to an episode on exercise snacks. And that is going to be a really great way to help you solidify the habit in a sustainable way without feeling overwhelmed. The other thing that I have to touch on, because I hear it a lot, I'm hearing it less so, but most people are like, well, I don't want to get too bulky. I don't want to get too big. I will tell you, especially if you are over age 30, you are going to have a very, very, very hard time getting to a point, building enough muscle to where you look bulky or where you feel bulky. To be totally honest, I have been told that I'm too muscular, which is fine. I'm not offended by that at all. But I personally have tried very hard for the last 15 years to build more muscle and to get bigger. That has been my goal for the last 15 years. Sure, like, yes, I have some muscle. I don't think I'm excessively large, but this is completely natural. And I will say that there is a lot of false expectations when it comes to how much progress women can actually make when training, especially via social media, because there are a lot of women using performance enhancing drugs or PEDs, and they don't share it. They're not honest about it. So I can tell you, again, from somebody who has trained completely naturally, I've never taken anything, it is going to be very, very difficult for you to build too much muscle. And again, when you look at it from the perspective of the more muscle you have, you're actually likely going to be better off. Are you more interested in looking a certain way or feeling and performing a certain way for the rest of your life and getting the benefits of chasing that goal, right, as you go? Because it's much, much harder to put on that muscle, to build that, to get those benefits out of it than it's going to be to lose some muscle and like change the way that you're training a little bit if you feel like you are getting too big in muscle size. So I have to just put this disclaimer in there and explain that a little bit. So coming back into some action steps, some strength training basics. So some really basic movements to start with are things like squats, lunges, push-ups. You can add weight with simple household items, whatever you can find to pick up, some rocks or a log, right? A gallon of water is 8 pounds. You hold 2 gallons of water on either side of you, right? Grab the handles. Then that's 16 pounds. That is a decent place for most people to start. So I do actually have a whole strength guide that I will link in the show notes. I'm not going to get into specifics of workouts, but what I will talk about are principles. And this is something that's actually coming up quite a bit with clients as they kind of progress through their training. And we again design people for home or gym, so they are limited in weight sometimes if they're at home. And what we're finding is that, and we watch their workouts, that kind of thing. So I'll make a comment of, they're hitting the top reps and like with whatever weight they're using. I'm like, well, I think you could probably do more weight. And they're like, well, I don't have any more weight. It's like, okay, so now we need to find another way to challenge you on this exercise, because if you are not using this next concept, which is progressive overload, you are going to plateau. And so progressive overload is the basically strategic increasing of weight, reps, time under tension, effort, something along those lines, making the exercise harder for your body to adapt to. Okay. The amount of time that you spend doing the exercise are really less important than the fact that you need to give your body something to adapt to. So each week, you should be trying to do a little bit more than the time before, whether that, again, is more time, more reps, more weight, more time under tension. Again, that was isometrics, pauses, holds bottom, top, whatever. For optimal muscle building, we need to be working in the rep ranges of 4 to 12 and incorporating some power work in those similar ranges. Or really, you can do 1 to 12. I don't generally give 1 rep maxes because it's not like, in my opinion, in training for the general population, it's not worth the risk of pushing a 1 rep max. And it's not necessary, but you can train in those ranges. So generally stick in the 3 to 12. And it's not to say that you can't use ranges higher. There are times, accessory work, things like that. And you'll see in my guide how I use that. But for the main compound lifts, you want to be using heavier, again, more time under tension, whatever it is, in those ranges. So Dr. Von der Wright uses the 4x4 method, which keeps it really simple. And that is 4 main compound lifts for 4 sets, 4 reps. Simple, super effective. But next up is effort. Okay, so there's 2 different charts. I like to use the RPE, rate of perceived exertion, or RAR, which is reps in reserve, to really gauge how difficult an exercise is. So each of these is a scale of 1 to 10, but they are the inversion of each other. So an RPE of 10 means that you're completely exhausted. It's the hardest thing you've ever done. An RPE of 1 means, what am I doing here? So an RIR, though reps in reserve, right, of 1, that would mean you only have 1 more rep available to do. You could not bust out 2 more reps. And so once you're comfortable with the movements, you really want to be working in the higher effort of those ranges. So either an RPE of 8 to 10 or an RIR of 1 to 3. And of course there are deload weeks. We plan those out for clients, etc. So you don't always just go full bore. You ramp your way up, you get comfortable with movements, etc. And then you back off a little bit. There's periodization involved in that. But I'm not going to go into that here. But lastly, of course, it would be completely remiss to not at least touch on the nutrition of building muscle, right? It's not just about the exercise. You have to fuel your body. You have to not only get enough calories, but also enough protein, which plays a huge role in muscle repair and growth. So after a workout, your body is using protein in the body to repair and rebuild that muscle tissue. So you have to get enough in your diet. A good rule of thumb is to aim for 30 to 40 grams of protein at each meal. And this is, of course, depending on all sorts of things. But for the most part, that is an easy gauge. So of some easy ways to do that is going to be, scoop of protein powder in your morning smoothie. Animal proteins is always my suggestion. They are, more bioavailable in the body. So chicken, beef, pork, eggs, and then plant-based proteins are great to incorporate as your carbohydrate source. Things like tofu, beans, lentils, those are amazing, high protein, high fiber carbohydrate sources. And then things like Greek yogurt, even nuts are have protein in them, and of course are healthy quality fats. But of course, the goal is balance. So we want to make sure that your plate looks balanced with that, big hunk of protein. We want your carbs to provide that steady energy, and of course, keep your hormones happy. If you listen to my webinar, you know how important carbohydrates are. So at the end of the day, while muscle, yes, is going to help you look better naked, it's going to help you look toned, it's going to help your clothes fit better, all of those things, building and maintaining muscle is ultimately an investment in your health, your hormones, and your future. So whether you are a complete beginner, whether you're getting back into it after a long break, the most important thing is to just take that first step and stay consistent. It doesn't have to be a lot. Just keep it consistent. From managing blood sugar and stress to supporting your metabolism, bone health, even mental well-being, building and maintaining muscle is one of the most impactful investments you can make in your long-term wellness. It's not about perfection or extreme effort. Those actually generally backfire. It's about creating those sustainable habits that work for your life. So whether you're adding 1 or 2 strength training sessions a week, right? Maybe 15 minutes for each of them. Start with that. Focusing on better recovery, right? Developing your nighttime routine, making sure you're getting your protein in. And as you focus on your nutrition, each of those little baby steps bring you closer to, again, supporting your hormones, improving your energy, and long-term vitality, quality of life. So if this sounds like something you need in your life, you're not really sure where to start, make sure to download our Healthy Hormone Blueprint. I will link it in the show notes. This guide is really everything you need to help you get clear on the steps you need to take to support your hormone production, boost your metabolism, and reclaim your energy, build your confidence. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Fitness Simplified podcast. We are stoked to have you join us on your journey to better health and fitness. If you have any questions, suggestions for future topics, or just want to chat, feel free to reach out to us on Instagram at Brooke_Elysian and Facebook linked in the show notes, or via our website, ElysianWomen'sWellness.com. If you enjoyed what you heard today, we would be thrilled if you could take a half second to leave us a 5-star rating and review. Not only will you be helping others find our show, but you'll also be entered into our monthly $100 giveaway for new reviews. If there was something you heard that was helpful or impactful, please screenshot it, tag me, and share what it was so that we can bring you more. Plus, you'll be entered into our monthly Legion Recharge post-workout giveaway. New episodes drop every Monday, so make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more. Thanks for listening.